Before I get into the action that is going to be happening in match week number 10 and all 11 games that's going to be happening this week, I just want to quickly talk about something that probably surprised a lot of people, including myself, and I just want to quickly do a reaction to it. Now, because this happened yesterday, I'm pretty sure you already know what this little portion that I'm going to be talking about, and I kind of already put it in the title. But basically, the league win saga is officially over. The league win saga is just done and dusted now for the New England Revolution, as they made a last-minute deal by trading Lee Nguyen to LAFC for 350,000 GAM and 350,000 TEM, and in total $700,000 that LAFC is going to be paying to New England for the acquisition of Lee Nguyen, and potentially they will also give 250,000 to the Revs if Lee Nguyen live up to his potential when he's playing with LAFC. Now, the reason why I say this is a very kind of shocking news, and the fact that I say that in many ways nobody kind of saw this one coming, is because we all thought that New England was going to wait till the summer. We all thought that in the summer they would potentially get bigger offer from other teams to potentially sell Lee Nguyen to other teams, and it just seemed like this saga was just going to continue into the summer, and there was really like no news or no kind of sources that talked about how Lee Nguyen was going to get his move done in this primary transfer window, which just ended yesterday. So it turns out that wasn't the case, and LAFC decided to do this last minute move. And about how I said that there was no kind of link or no kind of hint that he was going to make this move, well, there were actually a couple of teams that was thinking about getting Lee Nguyen this transfer window before it shuts. And I think a couple of teams like Chicago and also I believe Montreal was willing to pay New England even more than what LAFC offered for Lee Nguyen. And the reason why New England turned it down was because they did not want to trade Lee Nguyen to an interconference team. And I think that was a very smart move from the Revs front office. And really, I think overall this whole situation and how the fact that the Revs are still able to get that much amount for Lee Nguyen, even though potentially it looked like the selling price was gonna drop in the summer, you know, you gotta kind of hats off to the New England board. And it's not every day you say that the New England board actually did something right. I mean, you ask any Revs fan and they would tell you that the board of New England is just absolutely awful. Like, they don't like their owner at all. They don't like how they're treating their team like a puppet kind of show. And for once, they actually got things right. And for LAFC, this is obviously a very big signings. And I think the only reason why LAFC's signed Lee Nguyen is because they need depth. It is pretty clear that throughout this whole season I've been talking about how LAFC desperately need depth, and that if one big player in their team goes down, they are kind of screwed in this season. And that one big player that I talk about actually did went down this week. I think it was a couple of days ago that the club announced that Marco Arena is going to be out for a couple of weeks. They don't actually tell us how long he's going to be out. There was no timetable when he's going to return, but he's out because he has a facial fracture, and he is going to be undergoing facial surgery and potentially will not be back until maybe June, and are at jeopardy of missing the World Cup. And obviously this is very bad news for Costa Rica. I mean, if you are a Costa Rican fan, this must be one of your worst nightmare, because, you know, with Marco Arena potentially going to be out for a a long time, and with the World Cup just 4 weeks from now, or actually I think 5 weeks technically, but with the World Cup just a month away, they are kind of screwed if Marco Aurania does not come back to their team and, play in their team as part in the World Cup in Russia. And for LAFC, this is also kind of a big blow for them because he is one of the most impact player in this LAFC team. And I know I haven't said a lot of time about how he was one of the most impact player on this team, but it's just the fact that he's a former Quakes player, and I still don't regret the fact that we sold him. I still think it was the right decision, the fact that we sold Marco Aurania, mainly because I just have the feeling that he just did not fit our system. Like, I know that he definitely has talent, but when you look at what he did with the Quakes and the system that we implemented into him, it just didn't work at all. And now that he had gone to LAFC and he found the right system, look what happened. He can be a very talented player. And, I really don't think this is another case of the Quakes kind of just sold one of their player that was very promising, and then later on they become a superstar. It's not another Steven Beitashour and Justin Morrow kind of situation. I just think that it was pretty clear that he just did not fit our system, and even if we kept him, he would not be as good as he is with LAFC. And besides the fact that he is kind of like the assist king right now in MLS, with the fact that he is leading the league with 5 assists, he also cannot score at all. Like, he is just absolutely dreadful in terms of finishing, and he has had a lot of chances this season to potentially put away his first ever goal for LAFC, including a penalty kick take that he had when LAFC was playing against Montreal a couple of weeks ago. So for me, I don't regret that Marco Aurania was let go of the Quakes, and now that he is very good, because I'm going to have some regression. But it's just the fact that, this is a big blow to LAFC because he is a very kind of impact player. I mean, I talked about how Vela and Diego Rossi are kind of like the core of this team. Don't forget about Marco Aurania. He also is very good with this team, and he also set up those play for Vela and Rossi to potentially put it into the back of the net. So yeah, that is probably that. I don't know if that is probably the reason why LAFC decided to sign Lee Nguyen. It's pretty clear that Lee Nguyen is not going to replace Marco Aurania. Both of them doesn't even play in the same position. But what I'm thinking with what LAFC is going to do with Lee Nguyen is that I think they are going to either put Lee Nguyen in that central attacking mid, which is his natural position, and they're going to potentially move either Feilhaber to the bench, or going to move him deep in that number 6 row, and potentially that means that it's going to be, the front three is going to be made of Vela, Rossi, and also Lee Nguyen potentially. So that's kind of what I expected, although, what's also interesting about LAFC's situation is that in the summer, they're actually also going to get another big superstar, and that they're going to get their second DP, that is Andre Horta. And Horta is a midfielder too, so what do you do in that situation too? I mean, is he going to be occupying what the spot that Feilhaber kind of is right now? And whether or not if he's going to move up and take up where Lee Nguyen's spot is right now. And, there's been a lot of people that talk about how LAFC desperately needs some help in terms of the midfield, and I kind of agree with the fact that they really need help in the midfield. It's kind of showed in that game against the Sounder how they just lack creativity, and this season there has been time that they have lacked creativity in the midfield, so I'm guessing adding Lee Nguyen is potentially another big piece in terms of their creative midfield. And I also know that some people say that potentially LAFC kind of overpaid him for a depth player. Well, if you're going to get Lee Nguyen, who is one of the best player in MLS, and certainly I'm surprised the fact that he has this really long layoff, even though he's not injured or whatsoever, and that he even got into this situation where he's kind of stuck in limbo between the team that he's currently is and the fact that he really want to move, but the team that currently owns him does not want him to move. It's kind of strange that actually had happened, but yeah, it's, if you're gonna get that kind of quality player like Lee Nguyen, you're gonna have to spend some extra money, and I don't really think that LAFC really overpaid them. I think they got exactly the amount that they need for him, and we're gonna see if this move potentially is gonna pay off. And I have a feeling that Lee Nguyen is not gonna be fit to play for LAFC at the earliest, probably early June, because Lee Nguyen hasn't been playing with anybody in a long time now. Like, he's been pretty much kind of gone into hibernation for the last 6 and 7 months, and it's gonna take a while for him to get back to fitness. It might take like 5 or 6 weeks, and I think his first appearance for LAFC is most likely gonna be off the bench. Like, I will be really shocked that his first appearance will be a starting position in some future game, but we'll see how this is gonna end up. Certainly, hopefully, Lee Nguyen will kind of have another good kind of game, or good kind of couple of games with his new team, and finally that he got his wish. Now I'm guessing that he's got to show that he can perform with another team. But either way, with that out of the way, and actually let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this Lee Nguyen situation with the refs? Do you think that it was the right decision? Well, actually, that's a bit of a silly question to say, if it was the right decision that New England had sold him at this primary transfer window, because they've been kind of wanted to get rid of him for a long time, but they just don't have like a good offer on the table. But it's more like, do you think this is a move that LAFC really need to make, and how big of an impact will Lee Nguyen do to this LAFC team in terms of the depth, and where do you exactly play him once he gets back into full fitness? But either way, I'm going to be moving back a little bit. Hopefully the camera is not too fuzzy. I have a feeling it is a little bit, so I do apologize for that. But yeah, let's talk about these 11 games. I'm going to try and do it quicker this time, because I don't want to make this a 50-minute video, because I already spent 10 minutes talking about the Lee Nguyen situation. But yeah, 11 games this week. There's going to be one on Friday. There's going to be 9 games on Saturday, and there's going to be 1 on Sunday. And since there is 11 games this week, you know the drill. There's going to be one team that's going to be off this week, and this week's winner of the only team that have a bye week sweepstake, DC United. And I guess you can say that they should definitely enjoy this kind of award, because this might be the only thing that DC United would win this year. I mean, it is a sad time to be a DC United fan right now. But either way, let's get into the action. We start with TFC versus Philly. TFC currently 1-1-4. Philly currently 2-2-3. TFC drew 2-2 against Chicago in the last match. Philly finally ended their 5-game winless streak by beating DC United in the last match, but in many ways, you probably know what's going to happen in this game. I pretty much think that TFC is going to get all 3 points in this. I mean, this is probably the first week in a while, and probably the first week this season that TFC actually had a full week to just focus on the league and doesn't have to focus on any other competition like the CONCACAF Champions League. And this is probably the beginning of the recovery of this really slow start they have, because they pretty much just put all the eggs in their basket in the CCL, and unfortunately for them, they didn't win that competition, and now they really need to dig extra hard to try to make up ground, because they are really behind in terms of trying to get into the top 3. I think that they're probably not going to finish first in the East. I'll be really shocked if TFC will finish first in the East and potentially win the Supporter Shield. I just think they're just way way too behind, and the team that is in that supporter shield race is just on an absolute tear right now in the MLS. So right now for TFC, they just need to get themselves above the red line, and it starts this weekend against Philly. And for Philly, yeah, good luck. Good luck trying to kind of do what you did last week against DC United, because I have a feeling this could get ugly in this game, and I have a feeling it's going to be a big L. And this is no disrespect to Philly fans, but I'm pretty sure that TFC is going to win this, unless if it's going to be one of those where we're going to have like a surprise kind of winner. I talked about this last week with Montreal, how maybe they can be the surprise winner of this week. I just don't see how the Union's going to get anything out of this game against TFC. Speaking of which, Montreal, they play against the Revs at home. Montreal is in a really bad run in these last couple of games, and in the last game, I think that game they kind of at least show some kind of fight, and they almost got the tactics right. Remy Gard almost got it absolutely spot on by just completely parking the bus against Atlanta, and hopefully they can hold on for a 1-0 victory, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. That bus pretty much just completely collapsed after the 70th minute, and they basically leaked 4 goals against Atlanta. And it doesn't get easier for them because they are playing against a Revs team that have beat them the last 5 times. And this Revs team is literally one of the hottest team right now in the league, and one of the most surprising team in the league. And with the fact that now they got rid of the whole Lee Nguyen saga, and now they can just focus straight ahead in the league. Yeah, this Revs team is going to be very dangerous, and I will not be surprised that it will be 6 in a row that the Revs will make after this game against Montreal. So this is another one that I really think that New England should win this one, even though it is an away game for New England, and New England usually don't do very well away. They're playing against Montreal that they literally just have ownage against them. And for Montreal, I don't know if I think maybe if Remy Gard tried the same tactics against New England, I think that will certainly work, because New England attack is not as good as Atlanta, but you just have a feeling that with the fact that Montreal, with how the defense in the last couple of games that are just leaking goals left and right, yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence that they can get something out of this game, and I expect New England to win this one. But next up, this is probably the most talk about match this week, because it is the New York Derby, and this has been kind of dubbed as probably the most exciting New York Derby out of all of them so far. And I think the reason why it's so excited is because it's an NYCFC team that, they bounced back after they lost for the first time against Portland last week, as they won against FC Dallas at home, and they're playing against a Red Bulls team that, kind of stole a win against the Galaxy, and that they are playing at home in this game. And, the Red Bulls have won 3 of the last 5 New York Derby at Red Bull Arena. That is what makes this match very interesting. It's basically the youth and the depth of New York Red Bulls against the talented and the absolute juggernaut of the NYCFC team. And this one's going to be really tough to call. The last match between these two teams was a draw, but the old saying about a derby, past resort, and what happened in the standing does not matter whatsoever. And this is definitely going to be one of the matches that I will be keeping an eye on very closely. And if you're going to watch at least one match in this 11 games this weekend, this would be the one that you really need to tune in. And unfortunately, this game is going to be at 11 a.m., which means that I have to wake up early for this one. So yeah, we'll see how this is going to go. For me, I think NYCFC does have a little bit edge, because I think that talent is going to kind of really overpower that incredible youth talent that the Red Bulls have. But the Red Bulls have been very good at home this season. I mean, besides that one blip against the Chicago Fire a couple of weeks ago, they have been pretty unstoppable at home. And yeah, this could be a very interesting game, and I won't be surprised if either of these teams win or draw in this game. But yeah, next up, from a pretty exciting game to a not so exciting game. Minnesota versus Vancouver. That kind of matchup usually does not excite anyone. And what's interesting about this matchup is that both teams actually won their last match. Minnesota finally ended their 4-game losing streak with a 2-1 win against Houston, while Vancouver got a 2-0 win at home against RSL, and that was the game that they were down to 10 men, and that the winning goal scorer literally decided to do one of the dumbest things you would ever seen a soccer player do, and that is take off his shirt, despite the fact that he's already booked, and that it was only the 75th minute, and that he just got sent off for that. So, yeah, and also, that player, Teixeira, he will not be available for this game because he got that sending off. So, that's a double whammy for Vancouver, isn't it? But, yeah, for this game, what's also kind of interesting about this game is that, you know, Minnesota at 3-0-5, 3-0-5, they're currently 7 in the standing, and that they are actually really close to potentially go above the red line. I mean, if they win this one and potentially RSL lose, they will go above the red line. And Minnesota is just, this season, there has been some good points, but there has been just really some bad kind of point. And Vancouver, I don't know how in the world they are third right now. Like, if you look at how Vancouver has performed in the last couple of games, it has been shocking. Like, the fans has been calling out Carl Robinson and want him to get out, and yet somehow, in some way, they find themselves in third place. And, you know, the Whitecaps, one thing that they are known for this season and also for the previous season is that they are very good on the road. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see if they can get another road win against Minnesota. I mean, in some way, they definitely could get another one, because I don't think Minnesota is going to have a repeat performance against Houston. I mean, it's no disrespect to Loons fan. I mean, the last game, I really think the reason why they won was that they did it for Ethan Finlay, who got a torn ACL, I think, and he's potentially done for the season, and the team kind of rallied behind him. But in this game, I'm not quite sure if they're going to keep having that same intensity in this game or not, but we'll see how this one's going to go. And yeah, actually, let me just move this a little bit closer, because I just realized you guys can't really see very well in terms of the teams. But yeah, next up, LAFC versus FC Dallas. LAFC with a win last time against the Sounders, and it was a pretty ugly win in my opinion, because they really did not look good at all in their home opener, and in many ways they kind of got gifted the 3 points with the fact that Stefan Fry made one of the worst howler you will ever seen. And what's kind of weird about that howler is that Stefan Fry kind of did the same thing a year ago, so I'm guessing that's his annual howler that he's going to make this season. But, you know, for LAFC, they don't care. They got another 3 points, and, you know, they're certainly one of the best team, if not the best team right now in the Western Conference. I mean, the Western Conference right now is just, it's god-awful right now. Like, there is nobody in the Western Conference besides LAFC and maybe Sporting KC that you could say that they really deserve to be above the red line right now. And, you know, for FC Dallas, you know, they lost against NYCFC. It was going to eventually happen. They were going to get beaten. And it's quite strange that it took them that long for them to finally get beaten, because this FC Dallas team at times have looked very, very mediocre, but they finally got beaten. and now they have another tough task to go to LA and trying to get a win there. And I think this game will kind of really tell what FC Dallas is. And I think if they do lose this one, there might be you could say that there is going to be a little bit concern back in terms of the FC Dallas kind of fan base, and that this could get really ugly in terms of this really tough stretch they are on. And if they lose even the next game, and I forgot who they play in the next game, but if they lose the next game after this one, then there gotta be some panic in the FC Dallas kind of fan base right now, because this is what I said before, how when you drop all those points against easy team at home and how now you start losing to good teams, this is gonna that's when you know that kind of mediocre kind of start to the season, and even though they were kind of unbeaten for the start of the season, might come back to haunt them when they start losing to good teams like that. But for LAFC, like I said, Marco Arena is out with a couple of weeks. It's gonna be interesting to see who's gonna step up in that kind of spot to feed those balls to Diego Rossi and Carlos Vela. Certainly it won't be Lee Nguyen, because he won't be ready for this game, and he probably won't be ready for at least a couple of weeks from now. And this is going to be an interesting one. I won't be surprised if Dallas walked out with a win. If Dallas walk out with a win, then you could say that maybe they are back to where they are. And if LAFC does get a win or they get a loss, I think if they do get a loss, I wouldn't say that it's completely panic time for LAFC, because they're so far ahead right now. They're just, with all those row wins that they had and the home win they got last time, they are just so far ahead of the rest of the Western Conference, and it's going to take a really bad run for them to just really kind of start panic. But speaking of teams that is in the bad run in the Western Conference, Seattle is one of the team, and Seattle is literally dead last in the Western Conference. Now, to be fair, they're actually second to dead last if you look at the points per game ratio, but it has been an absolute rough start for the Sounders, and in that last game against LAFC, that has to be a painful loss. I mean, the fact that for 90 minutes you thought you were going to get a point away from LAFC, which would be a very good point to get, and then your goalkeeper decided to spill one and drop all 3 points. I mean, that has to be heartbroken and certainly will damage a team. But for the Sounders, they got to try to move on, even though it was a very kind of heartbreaking loss, because they got to get ready for this game against Columbus, and Columbus hasn't looked good at all. I mean, Columbus finally does end their long winless streak that they had, but it was against San Jose, who is another team that has a very long winless streak, and I really don't want to talk about it because I've been talking about it for a lot of times, being a Quakes fan. But this is a one that I think Seattle can definitely win in trying to regain their confidence. And for Columbus, if they can get a point out of this, then that would be very decent. And if they can get all 3 points in this, then that would be amazing, and that Columbus might be back on track after they kind of been for a little bit of a rough patch after a fast start. But next up, Chicago versus Atlanta. So the Fire drew 2-2 against TFC, and the Fire looked like they were going to lose that game against TFC, with the fact that they were absolutely dominated in majority part of that game against Toronto. But somehow, in some way, they kind of woke up and took advantage of a Toronto team that basically just ran out of gas at the end and got a draw out of it. But unfortunately, it doesn't get easier for them, because now they have to play Atlanta, and Atlanta alongside with Orlando, and you could maybe say the same thing with LAFC and New England. They are just red hot right now. I mean, this Atlanta team 7-game unbeaten now. It is just, they are just really, really just, they're steamrolling everybody right now. And I just have a feeling that this is going to be another game where Atlanta probably is going to steamroll Chicago. I have a feeling that they won't probably put 3 or 4 goals against the Fire, because I think so far Atlanta this season, they haven't been as good as they are in terms of at home. But that's kind of what you expect for most team on in the MLS. You usually are not going to be as good as you are on the road as it is at home. And Atlanta at times doing these road games, they've been kind of trying to grind out resort, and there is nothing wrong with that, because as long as you get the 3 points, that is what exactly matter. And also, I want to give a big congratulations to Miguel Almiron for winning the Player of the Month. Definitely well deserved of the Player of the Month award. I mean, he is pretty much the best player right now in the league, and he could be an early candidate of winning the MVP this year. And there's also some talks about how when exactly Atlanta is going to sell Miguel Almiron, because we know for a fact that Almiron is not going to stick around this league. As excited of a player that he is, he's not going to stick around for long, because he is kind of a high caliber player that really need to deserve to start games for a club in Europe. And it's just a matter of times when I think maybe by the end of this year that Atlanta is going to receive some offer from a couple of clubs from Europe. And if they have the right amount of money, and if they think that it is the right time to do it, then yeah, it is the right time to do it. And it will be really good that if this will happen, because MLS want to promote itself to be kind of like a selling league. Now, that's been kind of like one of the big goals for MLS 2.0 and soon MLS 3.0, that they're going to sell one of the bigger talent to some big club in Europe. And Atlanta is probably the example of it right now. And as much as it hurts the fact that they have to sell Almiron, and it's gonna be a little bit of a kind of big loss for Atlanta, it's just we knew that this was going to happen once they got Almiron, and the fact that he started to be very talented, and that I think he deserved to definitely be joining a club in Europe. And he's getting to the time where he's almost hitting his prime. I think he's 24 years old right now. Next year he'll be 25, and assuming that if Atlanta sell to a European team next year, then yeah, I think it's the perfect time to sell, because he's gonna be in his prime. But yeah, next up, Houston versus the Galaxy. So this is a huge game for both of these teams, and I think the loser of this game, you got to say they have to hit the panic button, because for Houston, just as you thought that they turn a corner with a 5-1 win against TFC, or really TFC 2, they lost against Minnesota on the road. And it's kind of like a semi-cardinal sin now, the fact that if you go to Minnesota and you lose to Minnesota, then yeah, that's what you're going to receive. Although I think that is a little bit harsh on a lot of Loons fan, and I know a lot of Loons fans going to get at me saying that any team that they beat is going to be, their opponent is going to commit a cardinal sin, because they are expected to beat Minnesota. But for Houston, they are back where they were a couple of weeks ago, which is, where is this team going to go? Like, this team looked like is going to start to really regress this year and just going to miss the playoffs. And for the Galaxy, I know the last game was tough, and I know the Galaxy fan are still fuming about the decision in the last game, where it was clearly not a handball, and the VAR got it wrong, and they should have not concede a penalty and concede the winning goal for the Red Bulls. But the bottom line is that resort is over. And they have to put that in the back of their rear view mirror. And the Galaxy are just, right now, they are in a very rough patch. I mean, they have lost 3 of their last 4 games. They have lost 3 in a row at StubHub Center. Now, the good news is this game is not at StubHub Center and it's on the road. And that's one thing that they have been doing very well this season. That actually sound familiar. Isn't that kind of like what the Galaxy were last season when they just struggle at StubHub Center and do very well on the road? But the bottom line is, whoever wins this will be certainly a bit of a momentum boost to maybe trying to get both teams back on track. But whoever loses this, then this could be a huge problem for one of these teams that loses. But yeah, 3 more games. Just going to try to go as quickly as possible. I know I'm already at 35 minutes. But yeah, Sporting KC versus Colorado. Sporting KC lost to the refs in the last match. And I'm pretty sure they're going to come into this game very, very angry from that loss. I mean, that was probably the worst game that Sporting KC had played against the refs. I think even their manager Peter Vermees kind of acknowledged that was one of the worst, if not the worst, performance that they have played this season. And they're playing against a Colorado team that, after what looked like a promising start, are started to come back down to earth. And I just have a feeling that this is going to be one of those games where it's pretty easy to figure out who's going to win, because Sporting KC, they're going to bounce back from this one. Colorado just cannot win on the road whatsoever. Like, you know, they have 1 win in the last 27 games, and I have a feeling by the end of this night it will be 1 win out of 28. I mean, it's Colorado is just they're whenever they're on the road, you can just forget about it. Like, they're not going to get a result. They're kind of like in the same situation as my Quakes team, where they just cannot win on the road. But I expect Sporting KC to win this and get back on track. Not quite sure if they're going to just do like what they did to the Whitecaps, with just putting absolute firework on them and just completely scorch Colorado, and maybe potentially guys like Johnny Russo is going to get a couple of goals, and Felipe Gutierrez is going to get a couple of goals. Madrona probably will score another stunner. I mean, I think they'll still get the win. I mean, I'll be surprised if Sporting KC does not get a win, and I'll be really surprised if they lose this, because Colorado, like I said, they cannot win on the road, and it's not just this season. It's been the problem for these last couple of seasons. But yeah, talking about my Quakes, they play against Portland. In this one, I'll definitely make it quick because I already talked about it in a preview, and if you want more information, just watch the preview. But yeah, this is a big game for both teams too, because for the Quakes, they have to end this really just long winless streak that has now gone into 6 games and has gone into the 2nd month now. And they're playing against a Portland team that, although they did have a big win against NYCFC, they also had a bye week, and I think that bye week couldn't come at a worse time, because they had all the momentum coming in after that NYCFC game, but they had a bye week, and that really kind of like throw off a rhythm of the team. And, you know, Portland so far on the road, they have not done well at all. I mean, they are, I think, 0-2-3 on the road this season, and they're playing against a team away that they just always tends to lose. I mean, the Quakes have beat Portland the last 3 times that Portland played the Quakes at Avaya Stadium. So, for the love of God, please, the Quakes get 3 points and end this just ridiculous losing streak. Or not losing streak, but winless streak they are. Well, in some way, it's kind of like a losing streak. It feels like this team has lost like 6 in a row, more than they actually are at a 6-game winning streak right now. But yeah, the last game, Orlando versus RSL. Orlando, 5 wins in a row. They are pretty much the hottest team right now in the league, and they pretty much have the longest winning streak right now in the league, and they're playing against an RSL team that just cannot win on the road this week. So it feels like if you look at this weekend, there's a lot of games that are very predictable. Like this one, we know for sure that I think TFC is going to win. This one, I think New England's probably going to win this one because they have ownage against Montreal. This one, Sporting KC is going to beat Colorado in this one because Colorado can't win on the road. And then this one, RSL just, they cannot win on the road too. So, yeah, I mean, it isn't a really fun weekend. I think the only reason why it made it a fun weekend is because of the New York Derby. But yeah, I expect Orlando to make it 6 in a row. They're hitting on all cylinder right now, and they're playing a struggling RSL team that, yeah, they just have no confidence right now on the road. And Mike Pecky's team has just been so inconsistent this year. And yeah, that is pretty much it for all 11 games. I try to do it as quick as possible. Right now we're at 41 minutes, so yeah, that would be like 30 minutes to review all the game if you subtract the 10 that I talk about the league win situation of him going to LAFC. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Make sure you guys leave a comment below. What do you think about these 11 games, and give me your prediction for all 11 of these games. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.